welcome him a round of applause. You're most welcome. We'll remain standing for the first stanzas of the anthems of Uganda, the East African Community, and Uganda. Okay, 2 stanzas are devised. 3 stanzas. So, Ekitiibwa kya Buganda, 2 stanzas. 1 stanza of the East African Community and 1 of the national anthem.
Ekitiibwa kya Buganda kyavaja naffe tukikuumenga. Abazira ennyo abatusooka balwana nnyo mu ntalo ne bayagala nnyo eggwanga lyaffe naffe tulyagalenga. Twesinge nnyo olwa Buganda yaffe. Ekitiibwa kya Buganda kyava naffe tukikuumenga.
East African anthem, please.
Mungu twaomba unilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Do you remain outstanding for an opening prayer by Mr. Peter Odoki. Peter.
Thank you. Shall we pray? We do ask God's intervention in this afternoon's event. We thank the Almighty for good health, and we pray that He will guide the proceedings of this afternoon, and believing in the name of His Almighty. Amen.
You could take your seats, please. Our chief guest, Kamala Byonna, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Grace Musoke Luanga Bawakana, Muzukulu wa Nsamba. I'm honored and greatly privileged to be the director of this historic event. The formal welcome and appropriate introductions will be made by Owensonga, Dr. Colin Sentongo. So for me, it is to take you through the program and thank you most sincerely for having been able to make it to this auspicious occasion, marking a major landmark in the life of someone we all know very well. We have planned for about 2.5 hours or 3. After the prayer, which you have heard, I'm going to very quickly highlight why we are all here this occasion. I will then call upon what one may call special out of the special friends, people who have known Dr. Sentongo very well. I will be calling one after another to come and in 5 to 10 minutes share with us the highlights of what they know about Dr. Sentongo. When that team is done, we are going to invite the man who has brought us here himself to formally welcome us, introduce the special guests, and share with us to enrichen what we'd already have heard about him. This will be followed by the official address and the official launch by the chief guest, and that should bring us to the end with the concluding prayer that should bring us to the end of this fine afternoon. We'll then proceed down by the poolside for a group photograph. This is something we truly must cherish, and then we'll be most delighted if all of you, led by our chief guest, would join us over some small refreshments which will be set out there. That should all be done and finished by about 5 o'clock so that we can hit the road in time to get home before the curfew. That is our program. Our chief guest, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, why are we here? Is it a stupid question? And to generate stupid answers? No. I think it is a very valid question because we are here, I think, in the first instance, as honored and privileged people, individuals, who have known Dr. Colin Sentongo, and we represent a small team out of the possibly thousands of people, special people, friends, workmates, acquaintances, relatives. You're most welcome, Oichtiba. You're most welcome, Oichtiba. That Dr. Sentongo has known over his life's journey. And it's a journey that has taken him through 78 years and 7 days today. So, although he marked it a week ago, chief guest, ladies and gentlemen, it might be in order for us to very quickly sing one quick stanza of Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. Obugalo, bugenderako. Birthday, dear baby, happy birthday to you. So, that in itself, I think, is very important. The typical Ugandan's average lifespan now is, who is our statistician? 53, 54, certainly less than 60, which is a shame. So when we appreciate that, then we truly thank the Almighty and all those who have helped to look after and nurture Dr. Sentongo. The main reason we are here is to launch, first I think to launch Dr. Sentongo into the beautiful, wonderful world of writers of books, authors. This is your first book. You will tell us whether it is the first. To my knowledge, it's the first one I've witnessed, which you have written. So we are here to launch him into the dignified company of men and women who have put pen to paper to share with the world aspects of their life history. And in this particular case, to launch the book, The Unique Story of an Education Economist. I'm glad I did. We are glad you did. So that is the key reason why we are here. The book, someone will talk about the book. You've seen it. Can you hold it up, Patricia? Yes. You see more of the man than the book, but he represents what is in the book. And what is in there? It's a rich, diverse set of experiences from the childhood, the formative phases of our lives. Very, very important, because that is the foundation, and we become, in many ways, what we were as the foundation. Through school, someone will talk from amongst us, will talk about the childhood, the school, very important, spend a whole lot, possibly up to 1/4 of our lives learning in one way or another, in a formal way or another. As a responsible member of a community or communities, as a civil servant, both national and international, as a member of various fraternities in terms of socializing, getting to know people, and as a friend, last but not least, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather. Again, things that cannot be taken for granted, because some people may never have the privilege of especially wearing all those hats during their lifetime. What lessons are we likely to find in that book? Again, someone will talk about it more candidly, but the themes out of Dr. Sentongo's life that come through is the issue and the beauty of discipline, of integrity, of respecting people, and serving as a professional. Last but not least, of course, the beauty of leading a family through until one feels that one's job is done. So these are themes that I think relate, to which we relate quite easily, and so that little book, it makes rich and interesting reading. But we shall hear more, and I hope that no one will leave this hall without at least a copy, preferably several copies, because there are many people we love whom we would want or wish to share in Dr. Sentongo's life. That's why I think we are here, and once again, I'm very honored and privileged to be addressing you on this occasion. I now want to, we want to spend the next 45 to 1 hour, which is the heart of our event, listening to some well-considered testimonies and sharing about Dr. Sentongo. I will first invite another doctor, not of people, but of great wisdom, Dr. Jones Chaze, to come and share about Dr. Sentongo Colin as a childhood friend. You're most welcome, sir.
Tusanyusa nnyo okubalaba. Kano akantu banne munzikirize ng'aggyeko n'akambala nga mmaliriza. I feel very privileged to have been invited to speak as a friend. Being called a friend of Colin Sentongo is really a privilege, especially being singled out on such an occasion, because I know that he's got very many friends. And without offending my other friends, some of whom are in the room, I consider Colin Sentongo as my best friend. Let me be forgiven for that. But that reminds me of a smaller story of a couple of lovers. One was a Red Indian. This was a girl. And the other one was a European American. Naturally, at that time, Red Indians were not allowed to marry outside the clan, the Red Indian clan. This girl dared to fall in love with that American of European origin. So they went to meet the dad. And the boy started, "Oh, we love each other so much. Maria and I, we are ready to die for each other." And the girl turned to the boy and said, "Hey, speak for yourself." So when I dare not say that, maybe Colin is as much a friend to me as I am a friend to him. Because he might turn around and say, "Hey, speak for yourself." I hope he doesn't. Anyway, we first met, Colin and I, at Agri Memorial School. Agri Memorial School, it was then situated very close to the Kabaka's Lake. It was not one of the best schools in the country. And we were sent to this school by our fathers, our parents, I think as a question of, I don't know, a choice, a particular choice, sending us to that school. Because my grandfather had educated all his 6 boys at King's College, Budo, and the 3 girls at Girls High School. And I happened to be the eldest son of my father, who was the eldest son of my grandfather. So sending him to Agri Memorial School, whereas his father had sent all my uncles, including my father, to King's College, Budo, must have had a meaning. And the meaning, and especially as he had also been a teacher at King's College, Budo, my father. And he's one of the ringleaders who led those famous teachers who left King's College, Budo, to come and set up Agri Memorial School. So sending me to that school was really making a point. They were actually protesting against the colonial management of education at that time. So Colin and I found ourselves, and I suspect, I know that his dad also sent him to Agri Memorial School, making a point. Maybe for not quite the same reasons, but as I said, it was not the best school at that time. But we still managed to survive from that school and follow the route that we followed. What I remember between us and Colin, you remember that we didn't have any shoes. Throughout our primary school, we used to come to school barefooted. Worse still, Colin had a bicycle, which was quite something big in those days. He had a bicycle. Of course, he was also riding barefooted. in our shorts, navy blue, I think they were navy blue shorts and white shirts. And it was always, he had quite a bit of following, including, well, I would not say. In fact, I am sorry for you, because Colin made me promise a number of episodes in our life. And unfortunately for you, those are the most juicy ones. But since he made me make a promise, and which I made, I am going to let you miss out, unfortunately, on those very, very juicy episodes. Of course, from there, we both ended up in Makerere College School. You know, you cannot keep a good man down. We still found our way to get to a better school than Agri Memorial School. But that school had really grounded us in the love of the Ganda culture, and the love of our country, Buganda, and the love of our king. I think that was my best grounding for the love that I have for the kingdom and for my king, and which I think the king, Colin Sentong also shares with me. So that one we share, and I think we got that from, because I remember even our football matches, we used to compete between clans. When you don't have enough numbers, then we'll group the clans that are of the birds clans against the animal clans. Sometimes it would be what we call the food clans, the Mpindi, the Kobe, against the animals or the birds. So really that founding and making us love our clans and our culture, things started from that school. So I congratulate our parents for having given us that opportunity to start us off. The other thing, again, I remember Colin, we used to carry our books in a box They used to sell biscuits in certain boxes. And our parents had the way of turning those boxes into book carriers, sort of handbags. They had the advantage of not suffering from rain. Because, once you start playing, if it starts raining, you continue playing, you forget the books. So those boxes were very useful. And I think that's the first identification we had. When we came to school, I noted that Colin had the same box, and I had the same box. And that was our first connection. How come that we had come from families which had thought of giving us those boxes to carry our books? That was the first, I think, what brought us together. And then we discovered a few other things after that. And then, as I said, we went to Makate College School. And then we both continued to some Indian schools. He went to Mbale and I went to Kampala Indian schools. And then we ended up again at Makerere with Colin. Then we ended up both working in UNESCO. And I must say, Colin was always 2 years ahead of me. But when we went to UNESCO, I turned out to be his own boss. And I had to visit him wherever he went. He was first assigned, I think, in the Gambia, Liberia, the Gambia, the Swaziland. All along, he was assigned to countries where of which I was responsible. So our relationship continued. So I did not only watch Colin during our school days, then I started watching him again when in his working life. And then, so talking about Colin is a little bit difficult for me, especially as he introduced me to talk about the most interesting. So I must say that within the 5 minutes that have been given to me, that if you've got Colin as your friend, you've got a friend. You've got a friend for life. In the first place, Colin is very, very dependable. And sometimes he worries, he asked me to be the first speaker today. I left home at 12:15 for the 2 o'clock appointment, because Colin would expect you to be there at the time, and if you invite him, again, because before you get ready, he will be there at the time that was set. So I had problems because by about 1:30, I was still at the beginning of Mukwano Road, after having left Munyonyo at around 12:30. So that, I respect Colin for that. Even if you make an appointment 1 year from now, it doesn't need any reminding. But that day on the dot, Colin will be at your door for the appointment made. So that idea of dependability is not easy to find these days. But Colin has that. Now, the other thing is his sense of responsibility. As I said, I was one of his supervisors when we were working in UNESCO. I was the headquarters staff, and he was the field staff. And in that capacity, it was my duty to supervise, to go visiting those field colleagues wherever they are. And Colin was always singled out. Colin would be sent to Liberia for a year. The government would insist that Colin stays another year. Each of the stations where Colin was, it was the government always requesting that, no, leave the guy with us at least another year, because the guy was very responsible. And interestingly, this one, I'm sorry, Colin. Colin likes enjoying himself, like many of us do. This one allowed me to break the premise just a little bit. You can go to a nightclub until late, but Colin will be at his desk the next day before the hour. And that's what I call responsibility. So Colin, you can take him to be a very, very responsible guy. Of course, he's always there. He's always the same mood. There are many people you find he's a friend, but on Monday you find him in a different mood. On Wednesday he's in a different mood. Colin does not carry his problems along with him, neither on his face, nor in his interactions with other people. Of course, what we shared most, I think, especially as we were growing up, is our love for our kingdom and for our king. And I think that one, you cannot you cannot beat him. Colin embraced so much the Ganda culture, the Ganda people, just as I did, that we enjoy ourselves serving the kingdom whenever the opportunity is given. And to end, I think I will end with the genuineness of Colin's friendship. As I said in the beginning, Colin Wentz is your friend. You've just been hearing about how much he's been putting into his friend, Dr. Waswa, who passed away in Swaziland. You would think that Waswa was Colin's younger or elder brother. He was so touched, he was so concerned, he did so much. It's unfortunate that we know this happened during this. Of course, Waswa was also, I would say, an acquaintance of mine because we were born in the same village. But you could see Colin, the kind of genuineness that he takes in his friends is very, very unusual. Thank you very much, Wekitiibwa Nalinya, Wekitiibwa Katikkiro, for listening to me. And I hope I've done justice and I've not revealed the other secrets.
You have indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Chaze. Sorry you were rushed, but I think we've got the message loud and clear. Before I invite the next very important person to share, I wish to recognize that our event, I think, is being live streamed, and so to thank whoever has found time to be watching us for sparing that time and to be with us virtually. The next person to share knew Dr. Sentongo, Dr. Chaze did, but she's clearly no less qualified to talk about him from the heart. And that is Patricia Nanono Sentongo Musinguzi. Namuli rather, I beg your pardon. Musinguzi, Muchala Sentongo Musinguzi. We are obliging, yes, in compliance with the law.
Good afternoon. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patricia Sentongo Musinguzi. I'm the third child of 8 of Dr. Colin Sentongo. Unfortunately, due to the current situation that we're in, the rest of my siblings are unable to make it today because they currently reside in Kenya, Canada, and the UK. But other than that, they did send their love and their wholehearted congratulations to Dad. So let me read some of the messages that they sent through. From your sons, Dr. Bill Kutesa and Dr. Colin Sentongo, congratulations, Dad, on achieving this milestone and leaving your footprint on education and economics, as well as your rich legacy for your Wazukulu. From your daughters, Harriet Sentongo Matovu, Christine Sentongo Anderson, Nasali, Connie, and Kathy Sentongo, we couldn't be prouder of you, Dad. Thanks for always setting the standards of excellence throughout your career. We aspire for our own greatness because we know you have never stopped reaching yours. From your 9 Wazukulu, Thomas, Bernadette, Sophia, Sasha, Jordan, Sean, Jonah, Ida, and Kent. Congratulations, Jaja, on telling the world about your awesome life. We know that our parents know a lot, but clearly Jaja knows everything, and we love you very much for that. Dad, you're indeed appreciated. Just to give you an update, incidentally, we were all hoping that nepotism would work in our favor. But Dad refused to send us a copy of this book or even a little extract of it, despite our eagerness to provide him with unwarranted advice and contribution. So like you all, we had to wait for this particular day in order to get access to his book and for us to finally get our own copy. He has kept us in suspense for several years. To Dad, you always reminded us that the more we know about our past, the better prepared we'll be for the future. And the completion of this book encompasses all of those principles that you have taught us. As a pioneer in your field, you have set the bar to which we all strive. What most of us may not be privy to is the history behind your achievements, your sacrifices, your challenges, and your triumphs. We are so glad that you have finally put pen to paper and document it, and we get to celebrate it with you. Throughout our lives, we have been privy to having the exclusive front row seat of your masterful storytelling, your humor, your meticulous attention to detail, your command of languages, both verbal and written, your uncompromising ability to strive for perfection, and your hard work, which we know will all be reflected in this book. In addition, you've taught us to be fair. You've taught us to be humble, kind, independent, to be able to question and to be open to new ideas and divergent opinions. We have learned that every person who is great or small has value and is important and can contribute to our life journey. We thank you so much for this, Dad. We're excited about finally getting the opportunity to read your book. Also, maybe, finally we'll get some answers to the questions we've had all our lives. Uncle Chaze, was Dad really first in class all the time? Did he actually walk miles and miles barefoot to school? As the first line beneficiary of your success, how can we ensure we carry on your excellence? In closing, there's only one important question all of us would like you to answer. Is there a family discount on this book? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Njala Sentongo Musinguzi, thank you very much for sharing. Next would be Professor Waswa Balunywa. Did I miss him as he came in? I beg your pardon. Yes, Sebo. Omukungu wa Busoga Wachabazinga wa Busoga tusangaire ino. It's my pleasure to invite you to share about Dr. Sentongo as a leader in terms of good governance, corporate governance, and as a professional. Sangaire ino.
Sebo Katukiro Dr. Sentongo yanfuga nnyo ngambye nzijeko akakufiira ne nkajjako olw'ekitiibwa ekyo kye namuwa era nga nkyakimuwa. In the audience, I recognize Sebo from Katukiro, Sanchukurava. In the audience, I'm recognizing the former Katikiro, Sebo Tusanyisa Okulaba. I also recognize my former boss, always a boss, Professor Sebufu. Thank you for attending this event. Friends, and it's a wonderful afternoon. And Dr. Sentongo called me and told me that he had dropped me from making a statement. And I said, thank God. When he called me again and said, no, you are back, I also said, thank God. But I'd like to thank God indeed for the time and things that we shared with Dr. Colin Sentongo. I don't know whether Professor Sejaka is in this audience, but I must pay tribute to him. In 2000, we were looking for a chairman of the new institution, MOOBS, and he led me out of bed. I was sick. He led me to see this gentleman called Dr. Colin Sentongo. We walked, I think, somewhere near Nkrumah Road, and went to see him. And what I saw, I thought I saw somebody with a lot of discipline. I thought maybe this is the wrong person. He will be too hard on us because we were young, we had many ideas, we wanted to change the world, and we thought that we needed somebody who could share with us. But as I looked at him, I realized this was a person who could actually bring us down. Somebody who we could listen to and give us advice. And I don't think we regretted, because he did just that. So Dr. Sentongo became the chairman of the MOOBS Council from the year 2000 up to 2012. And during that time, I must say, I learned quite a lot from him. And to me, he's always the perfect gentleman and the diplomat. Soft-spoken, but very firm on principle. He'll smile at you while he's refusing something. Say, so what I learned, first of all, was his experience in education as an education planner. And at that time, we didn't have PhDs. So we were looking to somebody who had a PhD in education who was going to guide us. And indeed, he did guide us. We shared what we wanted to do. At that time, we had, I think, 1,000 degree students. And by the time he left, MOOBS had about 15,000 students pursuing different degree programs. We had many wild ideas, Sejaka and myself. And whenever we went to him, because of his experience and foresight, he was able to bring us, to rein us in and say, I think that is not an area you want to go into. As an education planner, he guided us. The first thing he said is, we must have a master plan here. What? Go back and bring me a master plan. What do you want to do here? First of all, the physical master plan and the strategic plan in terms of where you want to go. We had the strategic plan, but we had not thought about the buildings. He said, no, you can't grow an institution like this without buildings. Well, we thought about it, said, okay. So we went back to think about that, and we brought him this wonderful master plan, and he said, no, they don't do it like that. So he guided us. We identified people who had the experience to be able to do the master plan that we wanted. On the strategic plan, on the numbers of students and finances, that one we had the capacity to do. But still, his experience and his eye on what was taking place, he was able to guide us and avoid the challenges and the pitfalls that we would have gone into if we had not had him as the chair of council. He required us in council, and he made a great change in the way MOVES did business. When you bring business to council, summarize it and tell me what you want, so that we don't go into unnecessary discussions. So me as your chair, I may refuse, reject, I may accept, I may amend. And with due respect to Professor Wufu here, meetings in Makere would last a whole day. Dr. Sentongo's meetings lasted 2 hours. So he gave us the professional aspect of it, bring everything with all the details. If you don't have details, don't bring it. You don't go into the corridor and you say we are going to discuss an issue and agree on it. No. Please, bring a whole paper on what you want to achieve this day. And he also taught me something which was very interesting. Whenever we had contentious issues, as staff, as students, as an institution, with whoever it is, we will discuss it, the two of us. And he gives his view, you give your view. He says, okay, we shall come back and look at it again. So when you go to a meeting, he will tell you, don't go to a meeting when you don't know the result of the meeting. Why do you go and take quarrels in a meeting? You're going to take too long discussing issues. Let us disagree outside the meeting, but go into a meeting when we know we have discussed issues, we've seen different points of view. And I was used to this Makerere structure where you want to shoot something, you don't discuss it at the lower level, you wait for Senate, or you wait for council, and then you shoot that one down. In the end, you don't achieve much. So I'd like to thank Dr. Sentongo for that guidance, for that leadership, for that knowledge, professional knowledge, which you gave us. That institution, the way it is, the way you see it, whatever you think about that institution, because I think it's a great institution, he had a great contribution he made to what it is. Soft-spoken as he was, I said he was very firm on principle. He would discuss issues, contentious issues, with different people, get their points of view, and then finally, he weighs in with his wisdom. So during his time as chairman of council, we had only 2 negative incidents in the institution. 2 negative incidents in a government department shows a lot of ability in leadership. Because government departments, one of the issues is intrigue, all the time, intrigue. One is shooting the other. One is pulling down the other. But I'd like to thank you for that leadership that you provided. Sometime, I think, before he left, I was appointed the Katukiro of Busoga. Chabazinga appointed me Katukiro of Busoga. And I had seen his passion for Buganda. I don't think I've seen any Muganda in this country who has passion for the Kabakaship like that gentleman you see there. I've not seen anybody. I know my young brother Apollo has been there, but not to the level Dr. Colin Sentongo has exhibited in his love for the kingdom of Uganda. So he told me, but he was very pleased that I was taking my knowledge to the Chabazinga ship. And he introduced me then to Katukiro Walusimbi, I think he was the Katukiro at that time. We met, we agreed on a number of things, And we almost achieved a great deal, but I was dismissed on the radio. You know, we dismissed from the Katukiroship on the radio. I had brought a lot of radical ideas into the institution, but we were going to achieve. And Ochtiva, please, if you invite me for a meeting, we can discuss how we can achieve greater things out of the cultural institution that we cherish. I must also say that our young king recently appointed me as chairman of what you would call Majestics in Buganda, the Busoga Royal Concepts. And these are cultural institutions. These are institutions we should cherish because they define us. They define us. They uphold our values. They show our virtues. And therefore, for somebody who loves his institution, his kingdom, I think is something that we need to congratulate Dr. Ssentongo about. If there was several things to do, and one was for the king, he went to do something for the king rather than for other things. So that passion is not something that you find every day. And I would like to thank all those who are serving the Buganda Kingdom for the effort that you've put in to uphold these institutions that we cherish. I hope that we can move them a little further and be able to achieve a few things that can continue to have our legacy as Baganda, as Basoga, because otherwise we shall not have it. Once these institutions are away, that is the end of our culture. So, Dr. Ssentongo, I would like to thank you for your leadership over the years in MOOBS, for what you showed us, for bringing us down whenever we were going the wrong way, because we had many ideas. We had ideas to change this world, you know, and indeed he was able to put his footprint on these ideas to create that wonderful institution that you see today. Unfortunately, at times we forget, I hope that I see this in the book, that part of the institution is also part of that book, growing that institution from where it was to where he left it when he left as chairman of council. And after he left, we had many problems. You know, we had problems with our chairman, I'm sorry to say this, you know, intrigue, exchanging letters. And I called my chairman, I said, you know, having learned from him, if we have an issue, can we discuss it? You know, if a head of the institution and the chairman of the board go to a meeting and they disagree, there's a very big problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to again thank Colin. I remember in one of the things I wrote his name with a double L, and he looked at me and said, my name does not have a double L. You know, I think I see something from this side. Maybe they've experienced it also. You know, that is your perfect gentleman. Dr. Ssentongo, you were that perfect gentleman I met. I've since met one other person who is like you, unfortunately died the other week, the gentleman from Nigeria, Dr. Olubumunyo Washo. Whenever I would look at him, I would remember you, because he too emulated you as a perfect gentleman. May God bless you, may God give you one life, and may you live a comfortable life in the years ahead. I would say, Chabazinga Funvue as I wound up, but I'll leave that to the Katukiro to say at the right time. I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Awechitinsa, Professor. Unfortunately, we can't hug, but thank you very much. I hope we are all still strong. We are nearly halfway through. Now, Dr. Sentongo has lived in many communities in different countries, as you have heard. And it's easy for one to get into a place and stay there largely incognito, unappreciated, and not appreciating the beauty around you and making a contribution. Fortunately for Dr. Sentongo, he has left a mark everywhere. And the most classical one that is going to be used to illustrate how he exercised what I may call his individual social responsibility. We talk about the corporate social responsibility. In this case, it is the man's social responsibility. Is Dr. Peter Kamya. He's going to share with us, is it Kamya? Architect, I beg your pardon. Architect Peter Kamya is going to share with us about Sentongo's founding membership of Mutungo Hill community is that southeast of our city where we are. Dr. Kamya will tell us. You are welcome, sir. Not doctor, architect. I think there are too many doctors that I beg your pardon, sir. Yes. If you can sanitize and then I just start.
Owekitiibwa omugenyi omukulu Charles Peter Mayiga ne Katikkiro Emeritus eyawummula Joseph Mulanyamuli Semwogerere, abagenyi baffe bonna abali wano mbalamusizza. Amannya gange nze Architect Peter Kamya. Siri doctor naye mukyala wange ye doctor naye otulusi nnyo balintuma sifaayo naye ne ba doctor basomerera busomerere. Yes, nze Architect Peter Kamya naye mikwano gyange abasinga bampita Simbamanyo for short. If you want to call me that, tewali buzibu. When I read the splendid book written by Dr. Colin Sentongo, and I saw all the eminent and the prominent personalities he has rubbed shoulders with, I wondered how he chose me to be one of the people to speak about him. He has to explain that to me. Because as you see, some of us derive our recognition from rubbing shoulders with eminent personalities. Obuli wasoma naye n'ogamba nasoma ne gundi oba gundi bamusala ku kyalo gundi nange gye nva, but not in our own real right. And one such personality is Professor John Mary Sebufu. John Mary Sebufu yasomera Namiryango. Nange gye nasomera, but before him, long before him. So I am happy to identify myself with the professor and congratulate him for having written this wonderful foreword to Dr. Colin Sentongo's book. Particularly when he says, I just want to refer to this one. One of the statements he makes is, more and more books should be written by Ugandans themselves instead of relying on literature we are so accustomed to written by foreign authors. The foreign literature we are so accustomed to should be secondary to local content. Local content we identify with, like our social life, education, and so on. And that is very relevant. When you read Dr. Colin Sentongo's book, there are aspects of this book that you readily identify with. When you read Shakespeare, Midsummer's Night's Dream, those are foreign things. But when I read Dr. Colin Sentongo's book, there's where he says that the Kabaka visited his father. Yali bweru nga zanyiriri bweru. Ne bamuyita. Najja n'afukamira. N'afukamira. Kubanga abakulu bakadde baffe tubasaamu ekitiibwa tufukamira. Kati bano abaana betukuzizza. Kati bakisoma ne bakimanya nti abakulu mubasaamu ekitiibwa. N'afukamira, Kabaka n'amukwata mu mutwe n'agamba kitaawe ndowooza omwana ono tujja kumutuma, tujja kumuwa omuziro gwa nkima, ajja kuba wa nkima. Bwe yamala okumugamba ebyo n'amugamba kale ddayo ozannye. Ebyo mu luzungu gye biri. Enkola eyo tebagirina. Ate n'ekirala ky'olabamu nti ffe abakadde tubassaamu ekitiibwa. Era oli bw'owuliranga nti mukadde wange, ekigambo ekyo kirimu ekitiibwa, naye kati baakisaabulula ne bateekamu muzeeyi. Bagamba nti muzeeyi naye vaawo, muzeeyi. Baakijja Kenya eyo bagamba muzeeyi Jomo Kenyatta. Olwokuba yali mukadde nga balowooza nti tajja kusobola, naye yagambanga mwabalowooza nti ndi mukadde mubuuze maama ngina. Ng'alaga nti okubeera muzeeyi tekitegeeza nti tolina busobozi. Naye ffe kino abaana baakijjeeyo kati ne bakireeta wano ne bakifuulafuula. Muzeeyi naye vaawo, muzeeyi. Olaba mulimu negative connotations. Naye ekigambo mukadde wange, mukadde nga bwe tukimanyi, kirimu ki ekitiibwa. Kakati bye bino gundi bye mulaba mu kitabo kya Ssentongo ebitegeeza ebintu ng'ebyo. Olubonero byawandiise ne mpulira nti ne mmanya nti yakulira mu lujja lwasa Apollo Kaggwa, ne mmanya nti his fellow regent Sas Mugwanya wali waffe Bukeerere we yakuba embuga n'ensanyuka ku kasozi Gabuvuuma. There are so many other examples that you can get from this. So nendaba nti omwami ono kyayogedde kintu kirungi era tusaana tukigoberere. I first heard of Colin Sentongo in the early 70s. Nga tugezaako okweyiiya twakava mu university, tugezaako okulaba ekyokukola naffe twekulaakulanye. Ne batugamba nti eriyo omusajja omukukutive ye Entebbe bamuyita Collins Sentongo. Balina kampuni simanyi bateekamu emmotoka, oyinza okuteekamu emmotoka yo ne bagipangisa. Simanyi bakituufu ssebo, naye sitwakutuukirira kubanga emmotoka twali tetuzirina ne tubivaako ebyo. Naye yali musajja mukukutive tumuzannyisa. Kakati naddayo as fate would have it, okulya ku Colin Sentongo at that time, when I was courting my wife. Nangamba nti I have got my brother-in-law, Colin Sentongo. She marries my sister. Babera Bugolobi. That's how I came to know. As you know now, Colin yafuuka musanji wange. After that, Colin bamuwa transfer ne bamuleeta mu Ministry of Education ne bamufuula Assistant Chief Education Officer Planning. At that time, I was a struggling young professional working on some of the projects that were under his docket with engineer C. Isali, n'abalala. Mine was just one of the projects, the Teacher Training College project. The Teacher Training Colleges project was, the coordinator of that project was a Muzungu called the W.F. Doa. W.F. Doa was a rather pushy man. Nene Colin naye is not a pushover. So it didn't take long before they collided. Kakati, Omuzungu nakosa contacts ze to bring problems for him. Naffe netukoze survey ne Juma Masagazi to get him out. Era Omuzungu ne bamudeportinga. The rest is history. Mwabisome mu katabo ke. Colin oyo gwe mulaba is the most resourceful entrepreneur. Era yatandika okwezimbira ennyumba eyiye ng'akyali muvubuka muto. Era muleeta emitawaana egyo ng'Omuzungu yeebuuza omuddugavu ono omwana ono mwana yali musajja mukulu. He was former headmaster of Kibuli Secondary School. Bamuleeta mu Ministry of Education. Asobola atya okuzimba ennyumba ku myaka egyo? Ate eyo narrative gye tulina wano embi nti bannaffe abo omuddugavu bwebako kye yeekoledde mubbi byebyo. Kati ye ne bamufuula omubbi nti sente yazigyewa ne bamuleeta emitawaana ne bamutwala e Naggulu ne tumugjayo mwabisome mu kitabo ne mutwala e Nairobi n'akomawo. But he's the most resourceful person, entrepreneur. Bwe yakomawo wano ne tutandika Mutungo Neighborhood Association okukuzakuza akasozi ako ak'Emutungo. Naye yaneewuunyisa bwe yava e Swaziland ng'agezaako ate okuddabiza ennyumba ye n'ayita containers and containers of materials. N'agamba, why Peter, do you know on the tenant gwe nateeka mu nnyumba yange, I found footprints on my ceiling. Oba kyagendayo kitya? You see, kale beebo batenants oli betubireki beteeka mu mayumba gaffe. Naye n'agizaawo ne tutandika aba Neighborhood Association ne tukulaakulanya akasozi ako Mutungo. Abakasookako Dr. Colin Sentongo, myself, Patrick Adengo, Oweekitiibwa Kaya Kavuma, Swaibu Musoke. Naye kaakati akasozi Mutungo bw'okatuukako kaakyuka mujja kalaba. Oyo omwami yali chairman waffe era he was a most able chairman. Ne tusobola okutamakinga enguudo zaffe, tekamu street lighting, era in a good execution of his work. Oluguudo olumu ne tuula Colin Close. Nina ebintu bingi nnyo biyinza okwogera ku Dr. Colin Sentongo. Bampadde eddakiika bbiri kale naye mu ddakiika ze bbiri njala kubagamba nti bw'osoma ekitabo kya Dr. Colin Sentongo, no disrespect to politicians, with due respect, you understand that there can be life outside politics. Sentongo has never, ever since I have known him, has never made a political statement. He's never made a political statement. I don't know how he's managed that one. So that's for some of us to learn, that there is life also outside politics, with due respect to the politicians. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Architect Kamia, for that precise account. Last but not least, in this team is Oweekitiibwa Apollo Makubya. He's going to build on to, I think architect has made your work a little easier because he has shared with us aspects of the book. But I'm inviting you, sir, to come and give us a little miniskirt impression, as they say, of this book, with your permission, OHT. Thank you very much.
Weebale nnyo nange kufaananako ng'omuntu omu gwe tumanyi nzikiriza engeri mwenda gye mwambadde masiki nze nzijeko eyange mba naakagiteeka kati nenzija ssebo omuteesiteesi weebale nnyo omukisa guno ekitiibwa Katikkiro awamu ne Katikkiro eyawummula owa Buganda n'owa Busoga ssebo n'alinnya mukulu Colin Sentongo awamu ne Jane ne family mwenna, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So kanjagala kwebaza abansoose okwogera balina bye bannyambyemu nja kwogereza okwo naye architect Kamya kyasembyeyo okwogera kinzijukizza kubanga ndi omu ku balooya ba Colin Sentongo nendowooza nti kantandikira awo totya mukama wange. Dr. Sentongo oyo lwali lumu nansaba okubanja ssente ze mu bapangisa, alina amayumba nga gaago, era nempandikira omupangisa, pangisa nanziramu nti ebyo wandikira looya wange, nempandikira looya w'omupangisa. Kane tumala weeks nga 2 nga tuwanyisiganya amabaluwa whereas. Kati wiki eyokusatu bwe yatuuka Dr. Colin nankubira esimu nangana naye gwe Apollo oli serious oba tuli serious? Sente zange nozifuna tozifune? Nga waaye baluwa zizino looya muwandikidde anzizeemu katulire ekyaddirira. Colin yagenda ku gate najjamu gate najjamu n'emyango naŋŋamba nti bwe mulimala amabaluwa gammwe ndizaamu gate n'emwango. Yoyo nno lawyer, yoyo nno gwe twogerako leero, soft spoken. Nali sikiwulirangako nti omuntu naye tewali tteeka likugaana kujjamu mwango na gate ku nnyumba yo. Today, I'm grateful for the honor that Dr. Colin has accorded me to talk about his new book, this one. If the publication of a book or the launch of a book were to be likened to the delivery of a baby, we could say that we are here today to celebrate the birth of yet another of Dr. Colin Sentongo's babies. So please join me in congratulating him upon this achievement, especially as it comes a few days after his 78th birthday. Although I've known Dr. Sentongo for many years, I've told you I've been his lawyer and friend, I have no idea how he conceived or even got impregnated with the idea of this baby, or the person who was responsible. I don't know. But nonetheless, I have been privileged to be one of his midwives during a long and complicated pregnancy, which has kept him awake on many nights and has made him prone to mood swings. I know that his pregnancy was particularly complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown because he couldn't move and he couldn't make antenatal visits, as is common for mothers or expectant mothers. In particular, he couldn't travel to the United Kingdom, where he had planned to be monitored by experts and had hoped to deliver. As a result of these complications, the actual birth of this baby was by C-section at the New Vision offices in the industrial area of Uganda, as opposed to the plush offices of Action Wealth Publishers in London. So please don't say that Colin was too posh to push. He would have preferred a natural birth. The C-section was forced upon him. Naye Abaganda bagamba nti enzaala embi ekira obugumba. Be that as it may, and as we can all see, I'm delighted to say that both Colin, the parent, and the baby are in good health and are out of danger. With regard to the baby itself, I can tell you that throughout the pregnancy, and Colin, don't take this literally, throughout his pregnancy, Colin had a problem of deciding and choosing a name that was appropriate for his baby. He contemplated several names, but zeroed in on this one, the unique story of an education economist. I am glad I did. He has many reasons why he chose this one, and we agreed that he will be the one to tell you why he chose that name. But for those of you who know how he acquired his name, Sentongo, we have already had a bit of it, and his membership of the Nkima clan will know that Colin has had an interesting history with names. And if Sekabaka Edward Mutesa II had not bestowed upon him the name Sentongo, we would perhaps know him today as just Dr. Colin Hughes. Talking about names, you know we've been talking about names, street names, monuments, and so on. I was wondering as I prepared my speech why his grandfather, Engineer Alfred Evan Hughes, an ex-serviceman of the King's African Rifles, who worked closely with Sir Lokagwa, was not given a name of a road or a monument after Hughes, would have been celebrating that monument or that road. But even if we had a monument or a road named after Engineer Alfred Evan Hughes, I doubt that it would be under attack today. You know, today we live in a world keen on redressing historical injustices under the theme of Black Lives Matter. Because I believe from what I have read, unlike Kapere Rugad and others, Engineer Hughes had an impeccable record of service to the Kingdom of Buganda as a mechanical engineer in the early 1900s. I think that deserves some accolades. As you will see when you get the copy of the book, Colin is generous in offering a unique personal story, starting from his Welsh ancestry, the relationship with his loving parents, Eric Bernard Pisase Hughes, and Miriam Nora Nannono, and his siblings, Richard and Christine. Throughout his childhood, we see how Colin grew up to be the man that he is today, including the experiences he got at Aggrey Memorial, Makerere College School, Makerere University, and Columbia University, where he was awarded his PhD in education finance. Colin offers colorful insights into his employment at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Ministry of Education, UNESCO, in various countries, including in Liberia, Gambia, Swaziland, and in Uganda. A large part of his book is dedicated to his work with the Kabaka of Buganda and the Kingdom of Buganda. And this is where I first got the chance to meet the man, where we were together in developing a development strategy for the kingdom, as well as in organizing the Kabaka's wedding in August of 1919. Happy to see that Oweekitiibwa Mulwanyammuli is here. He appointed me as the chairman of the food committee, and on that committee, my friend Colin Sentongo was my member. So he was responsible for going around and hunting for people who would supply wine and eat. And during our meetings, he would be the one, the chief tester. And a job he enjoyed enormously. But beyond that, I was lucky to join him on a few occasions when he visited various parts, especially in Swaziland, with the Kabaka of Buganda, where he visited King Muswati, he visited the Asantehene of Ghana, and so on. In this regard, it is easy to see that Colin is well connected and mixes very well with nobility and with royalty and with the high and mighty. But his connections are also with common people. One of them, as you see in the book, is a gardener, or was a gardener, called Nehemiah Uchaya. Uchaya miraculously helped save Colin's life from summary execution by Amin's murderous soldiers in 1976. I think this, thank you. I think this is one of the, when you read the story, this is one of the points that is a highlight of the book. How Colin survived being executed by a person, a low person, not the king, not the minister, but a common individual whom he had a good relationship with. That tells you one or two things about the man, the author of this book. I suspect, and engineer or architect Kamya touched on this, I suspect that it is because of this harrowing experience in Naguru that Colin, who was a staunch Kabaka Eka man while he was at university, he was, I think, the head of Kabaka Eka at Makerere. Is that so? Yes. He was an operative there, underground and covert and overt. But at the same time, in the book, he's reluctant to discuss matters of Uganda's problematic politics. And I think he deliberately does that so that, he puts across a political personality. I have had quarrels with him on that, but that's for another day. It would have been good to know what he felt about the 1966 crisis, about the takeover of Amin, and so on, and to the current times. But he chose to leave that outside his autobiography. Colin also offers an insight of his corporate life as a chairman of Centrepoint, National Housing and Construction Corporation, as we've had at Makerere Business School, amongst others. He also shares a joy with his loving family and many children. No, did I say many? Children, Harriet, William, Patricia, Colin, Christine, Veronica, Connie, and Kathy. These have made him a very proud father and grandfather. We thank God for that. In delivering this latest baby, Dr. Colin Sentongo joins an impressive list of prominent Ugandans who have written books about their life stories, including Dr. Martin Alika, Honorable Miriam Matembe, Honorable Joyce Mpanga, Honorable Matthew Richkaire, and Sam Wambuzi, amongst others. He therefore sets an admirable example to others in this room, and I'm not pointing in this side, but to many others in this room, to conceive and possibly deliver more babies in form of autobiographies about their lives. In Africa, it takes a village to raise a child. That's what we say. And I am glad to commend to all of you Colin's new baby. Let us nurture and support it by buying it, by reading it, and by spreading the word. Abaganda bagamba nti ente kezaala kekomberera. mwebale nnyo, mwebale ddala okumpuliriza.
Webale nnyo Oweekitiibwa Apollo Makuya. You've done a thoroughly professional and competent job of addressing the building blocks, the key pillars of this very interesting book. Incidentally, the sales of the book will continue. There are lots of copies, especially when we are socializing, improving the quality of our life over there. This desk will be very busy. It's now my pleasure to invite the author, Dr. Colin Sentongo, to welcome us officially. It's coming later in the program, but better late than never, to welcome us and introduce some guests as may be appropriate and share with us on this very important occasion. Most welcome, sir.
Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro, mumpulire emabega eyo? Okay. Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro Charles Peter Mayiga, Oweekitiibwa eyawummula Katikkiro Mulwanyammuli Mwogerere, Nnaalinnya Kagere, mukyala wange ayagala okuyimirirako, mukyala Sentongo Jane, ndowooza ku lisiti eyo ngatteko Professor Kojja Sebuufu. It is going to be very difficult for me, and normally I get upset when I'm at a congregation like this one and somebody starts introducing people and he leaves me out. I don't feel comfortable. So may I please ask you to allow me not to mention any other names, but to allow me to say that I have recognized your presence, and I'm very, very happy that you've been able to come for this occasion. I would like to start, and that is all I'm going to do really, to thank you, to thank all of you, and specifically to thank two groups of people. One group of people is the speakers who have been here and have really said all that I could have said. Starting with Dr. Jones Chaze. He told you that we came from nothing. By nothing, I mean, zero age, with our boxes, barefooted. He was walking a longer distance because he was coming from Natete, and I was coming from Lukoto. Lukoto, some of you know Lukoto, do you know CMS Sotonkole House? It used to be there. By the way, there was also the King's Well, Kalinda. It used to be there. I went recently and none of these things are there. We're just neighbors to CMS Sotonkole. Of course, ours was a smaller house, so I'm sure it's gone. But CMS Sotonkole had a sprawling place, and it's all gone. I looked around and couldn't find it. Chaze has said everything from Agro Memorial School to UNESCO. Actually, the first man who spoke, that is Dr. Chaze, is a very important man in this country. We don't know. But he is a man who served UNESCO for over 30 years, and he rose to the most coveted post within UNESCO of being the UNESCO representative to the United Nations in New York. Now, that's really, I mean, you can't go higher. Oh, no, you can. You can be a director general, sorry. But at our level, that was very good. And I think you set Uganda very proud. The second person who talked, I'm not talking about her at all, except to say her husband, Dennis Musinguzi, must be around. Is your father around? Who is Dr. Jotham Musinguzi? Is he around? No, he's not. Okay. I think most of you know Dr. Jotham Musinguzi. We first met when he was working with IPPF, which was attached or under the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development. I think, Mr. Wadimba, you remember your departments in the Ministry of Planning. Just a small one. When Dennis's name came up as a potential person who wanted to get married to my daughter, I'm sorry, this is not discriminative, but I asked, who is Dennis's father? And they told me, oh, you don't know Dr. Jotham Musinguzi? I said, Dr. Jotham Musinguzi? Okay, given. Perfect. I'm not saying that flying under your father's wings, but Dr. Jotham Musinguzi is one of the most accomplished medical doctor, but a very polite, down-to-earth man. Very easy to deal with, and I really like my Musajja Munange. What is that in Luganda, in English? Mukulu Munange, sorry. So you was Katiki. Yes, Mukulu Munange. He's a very good man. The next one was, incidentally, may I ask Patricia, can you, I'm sure those 3 books which have can you give one to Dr. Jones Chaze? None for you. Now, who Professor Waswa Balunywa? Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Professor Wachtinisa Wasabalunywa. Thank you very much for your kind words. I was extremely tough with you, but I think it paid dividends. But you are a man who really is a man, you can talk, discuss, get angry, quarrel, come back, and he's a diplomat, actually. Very, very good man. And I enjoyed working with him for the 10 years we were together in that place. Who was the next one? Sorry? 13 years, I'm sorry. I had dropped the 3, I don't know why. Yeah? Architect Kamya, my brother, everything you mean to me. You know, you are party to rushing me through the border to Kenya when I had had enough of situation around here. That is way back in 1977. Building up Mutungo Hill from a real bush. Real Mutungo Hill was a real bush with some monkeys, and Peter told me he saw a tiger one day. I don't believe him, but but it was really, and again it was infested, heavily infested with thieves. There are a lot of thieves around. But now when you look at Mutungo Hill, my God, Kororo Tejia, you know, it's very good. And architect, yes, just a small one. When the members of this association suggested that we should we should gravel the road, you know, put to make it passable. Peter said, no, we should tarmac it. And everybody burst out laughing because we are talking about 2 or 3 kilometers. And later on, Peter convinced us that yes, it was possible. Let's press, let's contribute, let's ask City Council to do this and this. And as a community, we ended up having a fantastic road. Of course, it opened up everything, as you know. And the value of people who had land there shot high. So a man, you know, whose idea is shot down, just overnight, we've got it. Finally, Oweekitiibwa Apollo Makubuya. You know, you've read some of Apollo Makubuya's books. He's an author. He's extremely authoritative. By the way, as I talk about Apollo Makubuya, he helped me quite a lot in guiding me through this book. But there is another man. There is also another man, Mwami Joseph Omukungu Joseph Magalanyago. Immediately akosebo tukulabe kuba woli oba toliyo oba wagenze. Oh, yes, there. Those who used to work in the Bank of Uganda know him very well. I was now at the last stage, final stages of this book, and he is very critical, but at the same time witty in handling things. So he was, page by page, and we had to do this during when it was really intensive regulations of not moving around, not seeing anybody. So we used to spend hours. He would put on money, it's finished, then I would put on some, and then I decided to put for 1 month, and we would spend it in a day or something. But I thank you very much, Magalanyago, for your contribution to changing a number of things. You see, when you are writing a book, and I shouldn't sound like I'm now an authority. I'm not. But you tend to do certain things and you think it's all right. When you share it with a colleague, in fact, one time I dared share something I was saying about Buganda. I had to share it with Katikiro Mulwanyamuli Semogerere because I wasn't sure whether it would be, sound right in certain circles. And he came and says, no, you say it. You better say it. I said, oh, thank you very much. I've got your stamp on this. I'm going to say it. And confidently, I think I've said what I've said what I wanted to say. I just wanted to thank all of you. But I want to thank in a special way Professor Kojewange Sebufu for the forward. I think it has been mentioned. Katikiro Mulwanyamuli Semogerere. Thank you very much for grooming me, taking me through when I was handed to you in 1993 to start working with you on the redevelopment and remodernization of Buganda Kingdom. Thank you very much. I now want to very briefly go to the second set of my appreciation. And this is very, very important to me because this star you see here, talking about I'm glad I did, has got a very special significance to me. It represents the 5 milestones of my life. The first milestone in my life was at Makerere School in the junior school. We used to have J1, Junior 1, Junior 2, Junior 3. We were 3 relatively naughty. That's what Mrs. Mpanga used to say. Relatively naughty boys in the junior school, in junior 2 actually. No, then we went to senior, we went to other classes later. Now, these 3 boys were Pilkington, Sengendo, Sibambi. Second one was Samueli, Mate, Mukasa, and myself. Some of you will recall that we used to sit for an examination called senior entrance examination in junior 2. And we just found the 3 of us admitted to junior 3. Junior 3, yes, you had passed, but not really, and you would not be admitted to senior 1. That was for those who didn't know. But 1 week of our stay in junior 3, the 3 of us, Canon John Wikangaga was our headmaster then. He walked into our junior 3 classroom, called out the 3 names, and he called us to his office. Being called to Canon RIP, Canon John Bikanga to his office. Okay, I'm getting into the details of the book. But it was we got very frightened. Then he really gave us a telling. He not reprimanded, I don't want to use that word, but he told us off as, his children, people he had a lot of confidence in, the three of us, and said, from now on, he started off, you have, my staff has decided to transfer you from junior 3 to senior 1 class. For you people who know the situation at the time would see how happy we were. Great, great, great. And he added, but as of today, you must take your studies very, very seriously. And if you want to succeed in this life, you better take education as a very serious matter. We were most grateful. And we went to senior 1. Fast forward, I am glad we took the advice of our headmaster. At the time we did, because we all woke up and started being very serious at whatever we were doing at school. Incidentally, surprising that Pilkington Sengendo Nsibambi rose up to become professor of industrial art at Makerere University. That is the man who had been sort of, if you understand, condemned to something else. Samuel Matemukasa studied education and moved on several schools, after which he was appointed headmaster of Makerere School, not replacing, but taking the same position as Colonel John Bikanga had taken. For me, I did, several things, but later on, I was appointed chairman of the National Housing and Construction Corporation, a position Colonel John Bikanga had occupied probably 10 years before. So, ladies and gentlemen, surely it's important that I'm glad, together with my 2 late friends, by the way, that we took that advice at the time we did. 2, now fast forward again, very fast. I finish university, and at that time, ladies and gentlemen, the young ones, you will appreciate, these times are very different from our times. At the end of the 3 years or 5, whatever years you spend at university, people will come to interview you, including government. I was offered 3 jobs. I was offered a job as a foreign service officer. At that time, it was really glamorous to be a foreign service officer and go to be posted outside Uganda. It was a great thing. The other job was Uganda Development Corporation as an economist. Their salary was much, much better than anything else anywhere, the money aspect. And finally, the Ministry of Planning, I was appointed as economist. There, we were told there were on-the-job training opportunities. And that's what I chose. I said, not the glamour of foreign affairs, not the money in UDC, immediate money in UDC, but I'll go to a ministry where I can advance myself on the job. And indeed I did, because I was sent to the University of Sussex, I was sent to Senegal, I was sent to several countries on the job. By the way, while my salary was still going, was still being paid to my account. Now, there I met three very important people in my life again. The permanent secretary, Mr. Alfred Mubanda. I'm sorry he can't be with us now. He's not feeling very well. There was the chief government statistician, Mr. I.K. Kabanda. And then there was my immediate boss, the chief planning economist. I'm glad to mention that Mr. George Wadimba is here. Please, can I ask you to just stand up for recognition? And Patricia, can you give him a book which is signed? I pursued that profession of economist, specializing in education and finance. For the last 50 years, that's what I've been doing in my life. I am glad I did by choosing a ministry which really looked after its employees. But I want to add, Mr. George Wadimba, probably you took this for granted, but you really inculcated into me the degree of integrity and responsibility that people say I have up to now. He was a fantastic professional mentor to me, and I really appreciate this. He introduced a lot of things, a lot of elements. Integrity when you're at work, efficiency, working hard at your job. Incidentally, Mr. Wadimba, after all those positions, went away to FAO, yes, FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, worked headquarters, Rome, was it Rome, Africa, and he's a retired man. But look at this young man. He was my boss, but look at him. I'm older than him now. I don't know what you eat, but thank God everything's fine. So that is the second milestone in my life. The third milestone, which T. Wapolo has mentioned, this is a sad one, but I'll be very brief on it. While working in the Ministry of Education, prestigious office building, Crystal Towers, I was whisked away from the office to Naguru Public Safety Unit. There, part of the story is narrated here, so I don't want to spoil it for you. But I met a man called Nehemiah Uchaya. This man, Mr. Wadimba, do you remember Nehemiah Uchaya? You wouldn't. I don't think you would. He was our We used to call them at that time office assistant. But I would also take him to my home to clear. I mean, those days we used to have 1 acre of land. 1 acre of compound in Tebe. Those days, the government house had 1 acre of land. And he would help me. I treated him well. But I was taken to Nakuru. Whom do I find? Nehemiah Uchaya. I couldn't remember him. This was years between. So he asked me, "Oh, do you know me?" I said, "No, sir." And this is one of the rarest times when I ever said the word sir to anybody. I can say sebo, but no sir. I don't know why. I never say a word sebo sir to anybody. So he said, "Oh, did you ever work in the Ministry of Planning?" I said, "Yes, sir." I was shaken. I had never even gone to a police station. But here I am, being taken to the most dreaded security unit in Uganda at the time. Probably there are worse ones these days, I don't know. I'm not a politician, I don't want to get involved in that. But anyway, Nakuru was terrible. This man told me a lot of things and looked after me. I don't want to tell you more, but the important thing is that I want to ask his son. We are still in touch. Uchaya is back home. His son is in Uganda. We are in touch with each other. He used to work with AMISOM in Somalia. He's back now and he's posted at the border. But when I called him, I said, there's a book I'm writing. He said, "Oh, I must come. Robert, can you please stand up for recognition? Please come here. Come here. This man saved the father of this man saved my life." Oh. While we were in the Ministry of Planning, his father was a thin, tall, very good man. And while I was in Nakuru, I'm going to repeat this, he did everything possible. That was a small man in Nakuru, but he was, of course, in charge of the cells or whatever they call them. Oh, no, there was no cell. It was a long room like this. 200 of us used to spend a good night in that long room. So, ladies and gentlemen, all I want to say is that I think the way you look or you handle people, not necessarily, people who are of a slightly lower rank, level rather, is very important in life. I used to see in the offices a long time ago, I don't know whether it is still used, where you have pictures of a ladder with a man going up, and he says, what does it say? That people who saw you climb will also see you go down. Yes. So that's a big lesson in my life. And I think it was the upbringing of your friend, my father, and people who are surrounding me that, look, you treat people below you with dignity, humility, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Robert, tell your father that I owe my love to him. Of course, he knows it. But I want you to know it today, and this is why I called you all the way from the border with the DRC to come and be at this function and be recognized. Thank you. I'm about to finish. You remember that a number of us got away because of the problems in this country, got some jobs, worked. Now, in Swaziland, where I spent most of my time, that's when things happened that things here changed. That was in 1986. We were two very, very good family friends. My friend was teaching at the University of Swaziland. RIP, Dr. Joshua Mujenyi of the Bank of Uganda. He persuaded me, together with his wife Mary, who is here, that listen, back to Uganda. We better go back to Uganda and reconstruct Uganda because it is our country. It took a lot of convincing. Mary, you remember, it took a lot of convincing to myself, to my family, and to my colleagues in Swaziland to accept the idea of coming back here. Incidentally, because of the situation here, those years back, you remember, we had decided to make ourselves very comfortable in Swaziland, and we were very comfortable. Is it still on? Hello? Oh, yes, okay. Joshua persuaded me, sweet talked to me constantly that you better come back to Uganda. I finally, very grudgingly accepted. My boss in UNESCO would recall that I was doing very well in UNESCO. That's what he tells me. But I took early retirement from UNESCO. And you know what early retirement in UNESCO means? Each year in the UN, each year there's a proportion that is deducted from your pension. At the time, I think, was it 60 years? 60, was it 60 retirement age? I was 7 years younger than that. So the way they compute this is the certain percentage times the 7 years, and what is left is what you finally get. I had to accept that situation because those who know me, I love this country. Each time I was away and I saw some my fellow Ugandans, I would always feel like coming back here, coming back. People love living abroad. I don't. I don't know why. So I accepted the advice of Joshua and Mary and decided to come because it gave me why I feel it's really a big landmark for me, I wouldn't have been able, as you probably read in the book, to make this additional contribution I made when I came back here. A contribution in the human resource planning, financial planning, and the civil service restructuring. Some of you would remember the Mami, what do they call this commission? Public Service, right, Public Service Review and Reorganization Commission. That's a commission that did quite fantastic work. And I am happy to say that I was the executive secretary of that commission. We made impeccable recommendations because that commission was chaired by a man from Ghana who had been a secretary of a similar commission in Ghana, a former USAID, Bijirwencha, a former chief of something, a civil service, Chitariko. So these people the commission was constituted pure on merit. We made recommendations, some of which were accepted, others were not. Those that had been accepted were partially implemented. Now, I don't want to get into that, by the way, but that's that. So I'm happy that I could make that contribution. Our recommendations then were respected. I don't know about these days, professional recommendations were accepted. But finally, on this point, and I'm glad I did, is to accept Joshua Mujenyi's advice, very strong advice, that I should come back to Uganda. And I did, and this is why Honorable Mere Mujenyi is here. Can you please stand up for recognition? Patricia, you've forgotten, you haven't forgotten, okay. A small something. I think people would like to see you. Just do this and back again. Yes, just do this. Okay, very good. Mary is a fantastic lady. We had a wonderful time in Swaziland. I hate to think about Joshua at this stage. Let me stop at that. Finally, I'm sorry I've delayed you so much. I know you told me you had limited time here, but the last milestone in my life was when Ssaabasajja Kabaka Muwendo Wokubiri sent me, or let me use the word sent me, to Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro, then Mulwanyamulisa Mwogerere, and told me, you assist us to plan, not to implement. He made it very clear. You be involved in the planning of the redevelopment and remodernization. Why I put ARA and ARA, redevelopment and remodernization, you know very well that for over 27 years, from 1966 to 1993, incidentally, it will be 27 years, from 1966 to 1993, it was 27 years. Do the quick calculation. But then from 1993 to date, it is, I think, another 27 years. Yes, it is, 27 years. Sorry? Next Friday. It will be 27 years when I was asked to join Oweekitiibwa Ssemogerere when he was Katikkiro then. And we started working on the 10-year development plan, things like Bukadev, BICAL, CBS, but only in the planning aspect, not in implementation. So we would plan and say this, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, continue. Now, I'm very pleased that the subsequent Katikkiros have embraced me and have accepted my service, simple contribution. Oweekitiibwa JB Walusimbi, Oweekitiibwa Muliika, now Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro, CPM as people refer to you fondly, Charles Peter Mayiga. They've all accepted my little contribution. Deep down, little do they know that I'm actually in back. Of course, they told me, but so many people don't pay back. I said, yes, but for me, apart from other things, I am a proud beneficiary of Buganda Kingdom bursary that covered full costs for my A-levels, 2 years. It covered the full course for my 3-year university education. So as the consultant here said, the corporate social responsibility, or as an individual social responsibility, I feel this is the only way that I can, in a very small way, pay back to the Kingdom of Buganda, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I've talked for too long. My apologies. I want to thank Kodemu Wangomulala, the events director. He doesn't want to be referred to as MC. No, events director. And the way you've conducted this is, I felt that you are in a wrong profession. The other profession, by the way, Mr. Grace Musokerwanga was the Director General of the East African ESAMI. How do you complete it? Yes, ESAMI based in Arusha. So I'm saying you are in the wrong you should have been a events director. You know what I mean. But as I said, I don't want to mention any other names because I'm going to forget people and they will not forgive me. Engineer Kaga, I'm just mentioning your name because you are my OB. This man is an extremely brilliant man, by the way. One, I'm 2 years older than him, but he was 1 year ahead of me. Can you believe that? I think it's his father. His father was a teacher, and I think he used to prop him up. Because when we were at mechanical school, he was in S5 when I was in S4, and yet they also say that I used to jump classes as they used, but still 2 years younger, but 1 year ahead of me. I jumped classes, I never stopped in one class, but Mr. Kaga, I think you know his company, Engineer Kagan Company, fantastic company. Oh, I'm doing some advancement for you. Now, finally, Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro, njagala onzikirize neebaze nnyo mukyala wange Jane. Mukyala wange Jane ayise mu buzibu bw'ekitabo kino. Because at times there's a point I wanted to make. No, you can't make it that way. You've got to do it that way. And would wake up. I was in fact suggesting that I buy a microphone. What do you call it? Tape recorder. So that whenever I remember something, I would talk into it. But she discouraged it. And so I would wake up and start writing. But Jenna, I'm very, very grateful that you tolerated all my difficulties and problems while writing this book. And finally, I think you are happy something has come out. And Patricia, thank you. You're very supportive in so many things. I'm glad you are here. You are with us. She's, by the way, the only child out of the 8 children. She's the only child who is here in Uganda. The rest are doing their other things elsewhere. Please stay with us, be with us. Don't think of going away. Mr. Musinguzi, don't have any ideas. MTN is all right. That's where he works. I won't stop. Therefore, Mr. Director, please, I think you'll give these people a final, yes, before, of course I know what I'm going to do next, but thank you very much. You see, you people, when sorry to refer you to you as you people, but all of us make this mistake. The people, the press, members of the press, you are doing a fantastic job. Not because, by the way, I will never stop. I think I love this thing. They say politicians love this microphone, but during the holiday, you remember this long holiday we used to have after A-levels, going to university. I had a stint in Uganda television then. It had just come, 1962, 63. And I was a sports producer, I was a cameraman, and guess whom I was working with? Bob Astros. Have you heard of Bob Astros? Thank you, thank you. I've been advised to stop here, and how do you address these things? I would like to, yes, I would like to invite, you know, this man, Esami, he used to be a teacher. He was saying whether I should say, has anybody got any questions to ask? I said no, because there will be 101 questions coming up. And therefore, I would like to request Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro Charles Peter Mayiga to come and launch this book. Thank you very much. Oh, you can sanitize.
We have one. Where is the mic? Oh, I thought we had an arrangement. Where is the mic? Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Webale nnyo Dr. Colin Sentongo n'abo mu makaago. Sanyuse nnyo okulaba mukulu wange Mbwakatikkiro, Oweekitiibwa Mulwanyamuli Ssemwogerere, n'alinnya Sarah Kagere, Oweekitiibwa Makubuya, Oweekitiibwa Jones Kyaze, n'abagenyi mwenna mu biti byammwe eby'enjawulo. Let me start off by thanking Dr. Jones Kyaze for giving us the little snippet about the personal life of Dr. Colin Sentongo. Unfortunately, you left out the juicy parts which we were looking forward to. So next time we have a drink, you must let me into all those things you did in Agre Memorial School and in college school. I think there were many. I'm glad to be here at the crowning moment of the journey during which my friend and colleague, Colin Sentongo, is sharing his life experiences through the book being launched today. Many of us learn to read and write from an early stage in life. A good number of us pass through the stages of learning successfully. A few actually excel in the academic arena, like him. We use the skills we acquire through education to render service to different communities and humanity in general, like he has done. Eventually, we acquire families and build different networks of friends, just as he has done. All of this expose us to different aspects of life. And along that journey, we continue to learn. We meet challenges. We initiate solutions. We become experienced and worldly. We interface with people of different walks of life. I think Colin's life journey is a reflection of what I'm saying right now. Many of us are like him. The difference is that he has written a book. That's what makes him stand out. We Africans have plenty of soft skills. We make and keep friends. We are sociable. And we socialize. We like events and ceremonies. We build plenty of what these days is called social capital. We do that a lot in Africa. But the saying goes, and I quote, that Africa will progress only when we start sharing books, not just drinks. That's what we seem to be good at. In the last 98 years of Makerere, tens of thousands have passed through her gates, because Makerere started around 1922. When one couples the graduates of Makerere with those of other tertiary institutions in Uganda, we end up with a reasonable number of fairly schooled individuals. Sadly, and besides literary works compiled for academic purposes, I don't think this country can count 1,000 indigenous authors. I don't think so. I don't think so. Despite the tens of thousands who have graduated from Makerere and other institutions of higher learning. But even, you don't need a university degree or diploma to write. How many teachers do we have? They know a lot. I don't think Uganda has 1,000 indigenous authors. So I congratulate you, my friend, for sharing your wisdom and experience through this book you have written. Thank you and congratulations. Like Oweekitiibwa Makubuya, I challenge Ugandans to write, because it's the only way we can preserve information and history. Uganda is a very eventful country. Nearly every episode of the country's life is dramatic. Nearly every episode. And I think it would be better if our high and low moments are recounted through our own eyes, by being the authors of those episodes and occurrences. It was said here this afternoon, what's written about us is written by authors, and they write what they write from their own perspective, not from ours, which is extremely dangerous. When I was starting my remarks, I refer to colleague as a colleague. I refer to Colin as a colleague and a friend. I call him a friend because he's my friend. And he never gives up on me, even when he looks for me everywhere and he can't find me. Isn't that incredible? He can look for me for 2 weeks. There's a time he called me when I was in a village I talk about a lot, Manyogaseka in Singo, deep. And the connection was intermittent. The phones were on and off. For an entire week he was calling me every day until he found me. Now, it takes a friend not to give up on you, doesn't it? And I call him a colleague because we have been with him as the Kingdom of Buganda tries to find Bukadef, which renders service in the villages for, farmers and herders of animals and those who practice. Atuwulira ifa ku bulamu bwe byatadde mu kitabo. Fenna tusoma, fenna tuba bayigirize, obusobozi tubulina, tumanyi bingi, tukwanya emikwano, tukoze emirimu mingi, tutambudde amawanga ne tugamalako, tulina amaka, tuzadde abaana, tulina bingi bye tumanyi. Naye tutuula butuuzi awo ne tutafaanana Colin Sentongo, ne tubeera ddala abasajja abafirika. Bishop Christopher Kakoza owerugazi yaŋŋamba nti ffe ekigaana abafirika okuwandiika ebitabo n'okubisoma, kubanga tuli mu kazi bagamba nti oluganda ng'otulabira bagamba batya, batandika batya, oba olwali olwo olwatuuka, owooluganda ng'otulabira kyova la tunyumya olugero lwa kintu emyaka 8 kumpi nga bwe byaliwo bwe tubiddamu. era kyova olaba nti TV ne radio zisinga kukula mu Africa kubanga Omufirika ayagala nnyo okulaba bakiyita kinnayu ne batuulaawo ku TV olunaku lulamba ne balya emmere olubuto ne lugejja balaba TV bawulira radio ndowooza lwakuba twakayiga okusoma n'okuwandiika kubanga mu Uganda emyaka giringa 15 mu Africa yonna giringa emyaka 225 nga sigamba byaba Misiri biri ebyedda ebya before Christ naye bo abazungu n'abayindi baludde nnyo nga bawandiika emyaka 15 ndowooza nakyo kituleetera obunafu mu kusoma n'okuwandiika. Kaakati Colin Ssentongo yetabadde bw'atyo musajja w'abantu era nga muwulidde yali omusenero ku mbaga ya Kabaka. Omusenero mumumanyi yali omusenero, musajja w'abantu, kawayini bwe mutula tukanywa, ndowooza obanywa kamyufu, ndowooza ayagala kamyufu. Twagala nnyo byaku jangu kuweemu, jangu tunywemu. Era COVID fa Abafirika tukoze bubi nnyo kuba tetukyanywamu ne bannaffe, naye tetugabana bitabo bwe bunafu bwe tulina. Tuli banafu mu kubiwandiika. Oli yaŋŋamba terekera ogamba abantu kino tebasoma bitabo kuba bw'okola bw'otyo bamalamu amaanyi. Webbango bw'otamuwemuukiriza teweebikka. Simanyi oba kojjange ono maama wange wangabinyisebo, simanyi ku buyigirize bwonna bw'alina oba atuwandiikidde ebitabo bimeka ng'oggyeko ebiri academic kubanga ebyate kuba alina biyitirivu. Awo nno ssebo gw'oyawukanye kuffe ffenna n'otuwandiikira ekitabo ku bulamu bwo, era nkuyozaayoza nnyo. Era n'abalala tukole bwe tutyo, temufaayo. Bw'oba onoowandiika ekitabo, era simanyi lwaki mukyala we yakugaana akozesa karikooda, kayamba. Waliwo n'omuntu omu mukulu gwe nakagulira amanyi bingi nnyo, ne mugamba nti tofaayo gwe kyolowooza oba ssaawa 6 yogera. Bw'ogoloka kumanya tofaayo engeri gy'obitereezezza, waliyo abakugu bajja kubitereeza, emboozi bagitereeze okuva gyetandikira okutuuka gyekoma. Kati ng'ono omulangira kagga, amagezi gamwese nagatokota galinga obuugi obuyidde, enguudo zonna yazimba, ekitabo kyo kiriwa? Awulidde? Wano waliwo omwana wa Kabaka sijja kumwogerako naye amanye ebintu biyitirivu, naye amagezi gamwesera bwe gati, naye sijja kumwogerako engeri gyali omwana w'embuga. Njagala nnyo okwebaza Dr. Colin Ssentongo olw'obuweereza bwe eri Obwakabaka bwa Buganda. Ebintu bingi ebikoleddwa mu Buganda tebitandise kati, bivudde mabega. Okuva mu 93 bintu bingi ebikoleddwa, era ffe abazze oluvannyuma tuzimbira ku ebyo abalala bye badde bakola. Dr. Colin Ssentongo y'omu ku bantu ab'engeri ng'eyo. Tebabadde baminisita, tebabadde bakiise mu lukiiko, naye nga beetegefu okukola emirimu gya Kabaka. Era nga bwe njogedde mu Lungereza nga muwa amagezi ku byenfuna n'okuteekateeka byenkulaakulana. Oweekitiibwa Mulwanyammuli we yabeerera Katikkiro. Era omulimu gw'amaanyi nnyo, gwe musingi naffe kwe tutambulira. Enteekateeka ze baakola. Ekitiibwa kya Buganda kyava dda ng'ani akikoleredde. Nagenda eyo mu Amerika ng'Abaganda baliyo beeswanta boogera ebintu biyitirivu. Nabasanga Boston, ekibuga kya Kennedy, ne mbajjukiza bye yabagamba. Boogera bibiri mwabe Mmengo, boogera bibiri mwabe Mmengo. Ne mbagamba nti tebanzaala Mmengo, nze nzaalibwa Kasanje, Eggombolola Ssaabawali Bukoto mu Buddu. Eno Mmengo najja kukiika ku butaka bwaffe ng'Abaganda. Obwo butaka bwaffe ffenna, ow'Emmengo yaani? Gw'okozeeyo ki Emmengo? Gy'onenyeza abalala. kaki wadde akantu akamu ke wali okozeeyo bwe kati. N'olwekyo wadde Colin aluusa annoonya nga tandaba naye olubeerera muddira ekyo naye akimanyi kubanga nteeka omuwendo munene ku byazza akolera Obuganda ayina kyakozeewo afaayo. Waliwo abakunoonya ne bayomba nga tebakulabye nga tebalina kye baali bakoze nga ate basobola wadde okuwa amagezi. Awo no ssebo gwe tofaananyaawo gwe Obuganda obuweereza ogambye nti wabuganyulwamu nnyo si gwe wekka. Abalala babwogerera mafuukuule ate baba baasoma nga balina ne digiri nga z'olina. Bagenda ne bafuuwa Ekingereza ne boogera ebintuntu. Temubawulira ne beeyogeza ebintuntu. N'ogamba ono ali kuki? Kati gwe oyogerera Obwakabaka ng'oli musajja Muganda olowooza bagenda kwagala ng'okusinga ewamu e Buganda oba enkole oba ekigezi gaba gakwesibye. Ani akwagala okusinga kitaawo ne bw'oba mutamiivu waddanga era kitaawo akuddiraddiramuuko. Naye Abaganda abo temubawulira babaayo si bwe bati ng'ono Colin Ssentongo beewaayo ne bakola era ebibala tubiraba. Ssebo weebale nnyo weebalire ddala. Now it's my honor and privilege to pronounce the unique story of an education economist. I am glad I did launched.
With your permission, can I invite the author, family, Nalinya, Wechitibwa, Professor Mujewano, for the symbolic launch of the book, Bennett Fananyoa. Please, Nalinya, Sebo, Wechitibwa, Undi Mwala, Mchala Musinguzi, Yangu, Wanamu, over here. Okay, so around the Kamarabiona, then you'll once again show it off. And yeah, for photograph, Professor, yes. Patricia, Jangu, yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Dr. Chaze, quickly. Okay. So that is a special among special snaps. Hey, Owechitibwa, Makuya, Apollo. You are missing out on this. I think it's important. Undi mutabani wa Falua. Ochaya. Huh? Yes, please. It's very important. This is a special snap. Okay. Please join the special among specials. Okay. Thank you. You are glad they did? Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then we'll have the anthems, and then we'll have the photograph, the group photograph here. Maybe should we have the photo first and then the anthems? Can everyone come and join here? We'll stand. The agent Yamala abaga kugalawo. So mujje wano this front row. Let's yeah. Okay. Colin n'omumbejja abaga nti kijja kumala kuba kirimo convenient okusenga okutambula ogenda eri. Kana mtukajere katekeko wano kwatirako. Yeah. This is a group photograph, everyone. Please, let's make it expeditious. Everyone, please, come. Wachi, auntie. Nagenda ke chankwanzi mchaka, so please, mama. Join us. No? Okay. Mchala mpanga. Oh, where do you want to know? Yeah. Wait for Mama Mpanga. Mchala Mpanga is coming over here. Okay. All right. Mchala Mpanga olufuna a rightful spot. Then you take the snap.
Bannange munsonyiweko omusomesa wange mbadde sinaba kumulaba mukyala Joyce Mpanga twamuyitanga Miss Masembe naye ye Mrs. Joyce Mpanga. Tusanyuse nnyo okulaba, tuli basanyufu nnyo, ndi musanyufu nnyo.
Mutabo Mongalo, okay. Mwebale nnyo. Can we have the anthems in reverse order, please? And we will be done. Is the DJ there? Mwebale bannaffe owekitiibwa, waliwo kacaayi wano, waliwo ka Joyce.